Welcome to the Richard Sherman Podcast. Hit that sub button if you're new. We're here to give you great NFL content. Please tune in. Welcome back to the Richard Sherman Podcast. And what a week, Mitchell. A nail biter in Tampa Bay. San Francisco 49ers come back, get the win. And what's going on in Dallas? It's hot seats and people going to be looking for jobs soon, unfortunately. I hope something can turn around for him. I mean, we got to see Trey Lance a little bit in that game, Mitchell. It was interesting, but obviously, I know the game you're most excited for hasn't happened yet. But what you think of the other ones?
Well, Richard, I got my Honolulu blue on. I got my Breitling watch on, that Honolulu blue, which I know you love so much. But I think we got to talk about the Niners. This Tampa Bay Buccaneers team is a feisty team, and you go on the road across country with that time change. Richard, you know all too well, this is not an easy environment to play in. And they had CMC back. They're getting some healthy bodies back. They got Juwan Jennings back. Ricky Pearsall's looking like a good solve for them in that wide receiving room as well. Richard, you got to be stoked with them coming away with the win on the road. CMC looking healthy. But before we get into CMC, let's talk about the kicking game, because we talked about it off air. The San Francisco 49ers spent a third-round pick on Jake Moody, and he struggled. Richard, what are your thoughts about this kicker right now? We saw Debo get into it with Tabor Pepper, the long snapper. What are your thoughts about Jake Moody? Because this looks like a consistent problem in San Francisco.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Before the injury, I think he was 14 or 15. Looked pretty good. Looked like he was putting away all the doubt that people had, all the concerns. But then you come back from the injury after the two kickers that replaced you pretty much were flawless. On PATs and field goals, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty much made every kick. And then you come back in a game like this, and people, have some sympathy for you. You miss one kick, you're like, hey, the rust. Then you miss two kicks, you're like, all right now. And then the third kick, you start to have a lot of questions, and you start to see the frustration from both players and fans. And when Debo Samuel goes up to him and says, lock in, and apparently that's what he said. That's what Tabor Pepper said he said. You don't defend him from that. You don't get to defend him from accountability from the team. When if I give up a touchdown pass and one of my fellow teammates come on like, hey, come on now, lock in now. Somebody's not going to come in and save me. Like, you got to be tough. This is the National Football League. You make a mistake, you are held accountable, just like everybody else. It does not mean because I'm a specialist and they're a different case and this, that, and the third. No, there's accountability. Do your job. And that's what Debo Samuel was coming to say. Like, this is a high-level football team. This is a team that's been to Super Bowls. There's a standard of play. And to miss 3 field goals after all the work that goes into those drives and to get the ball down the field, and these were long, long drives, and unfortunately the San Francisco 49ers are not converting at a high rate in the red zone this year, so they are settling for a lot more field goals than usual. You got to make the kicks. This game should not have been this close, and it's coming down to the final kick because of missed kicks. And so I'm totally with Debo here. There are better ways to handle it, and I understand kind of what Tabor is doing, trying to defend his guy, but you cannot defend people from accountability. I don't care. Not in this game. You can defend from people going overboard or cursing him out or saying you suck or something like that. Then shield him from that. But if he's telling him to lock in, get out of his way and let him tell him. Let him look the man in his eye and tell him lock in, because that's the truth of what needs to happen here, and that's accountability from the locker room. There has to be. You don't get exempt from accountability because you're a kicker.
Well, you're not wrong. And this San Francisco 49er team has been knocking on the door of the Super Bowl since you were there, Richard. I mean, this window is slowly shrinking. And I think that frustration, what you see, with situations like Debo, is because of that. He knows how important these games are. These are must-win games in a tight divisional race. I mean, we just saw Arizona knock the brakes out of the Jets. I mean, they are atop of this division right now. And then you got the Rams and obviously the Seattle Seahawks nipping at their heels as well. These games are crucial. Fortunately for them, they come away with the win, and they were leaning on CMC a bit. I mean, 6 receptions for 68 yards. One of those catches was a big ball. down the right sideline, huge over the shoulder catch for them to keep that drive alive. And then you see him tote the rock 13 times for 39 yards. How big of an impact is CMC for this offense, Rich?
It's huge, Mitch. It's huge because of what Kittle says. He just has an aura. He brings so much attention from the defense. He brings attention from the guy game planning, Todd Bowles. They understand what they have to do to prepare for him, and he still made huge impacts in his game. That 30-yard catch. It was near the end of the game. It was crucial. It was critical. A critical drive. Brock Purdy was standing in the pocket, delivering play after play on that drive. One of his best games when they had to have it. A dime to Kittle under pressure. The throw to CMC he had to release so early because he had unblocked pressure in his face. So he had to let the ball go before CMC was even looking and put enough loft on it for CMC to be able to locate it, get under it, catch it, and it was still a dime, hit him in stride. CMC was able to make a move. It was really cool to just see him back out there, not in pain, doing what he loves to do, and looking like the player we all know him to be.
And then you look at Juwan Jennings, fresh off the injured list as well, comes in, huge game, 7 receptions for 93 yards. And then we talked about it. Ricky Purcell, he comes in with a catch, for a touchdown, his first of his career. It looks like the 49ers have their weapons back. Brandon Ayuk being out for the season, obviously, is a huge blow to this team. But the weapons still are there. They're in-house. I think this Niners team, when healthy, can be one of those competitors in the NFC. The NFC is wide open. Outside of my Honolulu blue and silver Detroit Lions, who, knock on wood, hopefully will walk away with this NFC and take the number 1 seed. The last team I want to see in the playoffs is the San Francisco 49ers for this reason. Brock Purdy is a gamer. We talked about this extensively. But this year, 353 yards, 2 touchdowns in a game where they're trailing late. Richard, you can say whatever you want about Brock, but this guy is a top flight NFL quarterback. On the other side of things, Baker Mayfield, man. This guy is wildly impressive. I know he did not have the statistical line that we would expect, but that one play against Nick Bosa had kids in that stands jumping out of their seats where he's holding off the best defensive end in the NFL. Some would argue Aiden Hutchinson. I might argue that. But Nick Bosa, certainly one of the top 3 defensive ends in the NFL. Baker Mayfield's holding him off with a stiff arm. Richard, how impressive is that as an athlete to an athlete, seeing Baker Mayfield, a smaller human being, hold off this gargantuan Nick Bosa with one left arm?
Well, it was really impressive. It was one of the most impressive plays of the game. Just the part of the game that was in the situation. If he doesn't make that play, the game is pretty much over at that point. And he makes a huge play, but he's doing so much with so little talent and so little veteran presence around him. His number 1 receiver right now is Cade Otton, a tight end. He's missing his 2 all-pro receivers. Mike Evans is still a few weeks out. I don't know if Chris Godwin will play again this season. And so when you're dealing with issues like that and you're playing with your 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th receiver, to be in a game like this against a team like the 49ers and still have a chance to win at the end of the game was impressive. He's been really impressive this season, but even though his stat line wasn't impressive, he's played outstanding with all the circumstances surrounding Tampa Bay. They get the bye week, hopefully get a little healthier, but I think their defense played pretty good today. Obviously gave up the touchdown to Purcell and gave us some plays late, but for the most part, they were putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They were making the plays that were there. It's going to be a really interesting game next week against the Seattle Seahawks for San Francisco 49ers. This game will be in Levi Stadium. I'm looking forward to seeing how the Seahawks come off that bye week healthier, what things they changed in their defensive game plan, what things they've changed offensively to just help Geno Smith stay upright a little bit longer, because you've seen how successful they can be when he's standing on 10 toes. But this is a great game for the San Francisco 49ers just to see Christian McCaffrey making plays, and it was cool to see their superstars make plays when they had to have them. A 3rd and 13, they had to get a stop. Nick Bosa comes off the edge, makes a play, gets the sack of Baker Mayfield on the drive to tie the game. That you got Kittle making a touchdown catch. You got McCaffrey catching. You got Brock Purdy delivering a dime. You got George Kittle making a huge play. You just got all the flavors of the weekend throughout the game. Juwan Jennings was the player of the game to me, but because of some of the things that he did that don't go on the stat sheet. You know, there was a fumble where Brock Purdy got hit from the side and the ball popped out, and it looked like it was going to be Tampa Bay ball, and that was going to be a disaster of a situation. And Juwan Jennings was able to dive on that football to fight for it and give San Francisco the ball in that possession, and just enough to keep the drive alive for them. I think they ended up punting, but to get a turnover in that situation would have been detrimental. But let's talk about our Breitling player in prime time, and we continue to talk about his growth and how he continues to show up for the San Francisco 49ers. It is Brock Purdy shining today. Like you said, 353 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, led this team on a game-winning drive. He led them on a number of drives deep into enemy territory. I thought he played a fantastic game, and I know he's struggled a little bit this year. He's had some interception issues, but it looks like every quarterback has had some interception issues. You look at the top of the interception list, and it's some of the best quarterbacks in our National Football League, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess it's one of those years. You know, you look at Patrick Mahomes has been either the leader or amongst the leaders in interceptions this season, and this team is 9-0. So it just seems like one of those weird years, but this was a fantastic game from Brock Purdy. Thank you to our friends and partners over at Breitling for allowing us to showcase Brock Purdy and watch him shine.
He definitely shined there, Richard. The NFL season is rolling along, and contenders are starting to separate themselves from the pack. The one thing that hasn't changed this NFL season, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Fade to the corner of the end zone, running back breaks through the line and gallops 60 yards for a score. We don't care how they get them. We just want to bet on touchdowns, and DraftKings is the best place to do it. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple, like a player scoring a touchdown. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Here's a reason for new customers to do a touchdown dance of their own. Bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Richard. That's code Richard for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Let's take it to Kansas City. This team is now 9-0, man. They cannot lose. Simply put, the Denver Broncos come in, another divisional game, and as you have said throughout the last several years, these divisional games are different. Vegas had a huge spread in this game. I believe it was 9 points, and throughout this game, it looked like it was Denver's game, and it looked like it was Denver's game down to the final seconds. And I don't get it, man. Kansas City can win no matter what way, what position you put them in. Normally, it's at the hands of Patrick Mahomes leading them back, but this time it was a little bit different. A game-winning blocked field goal, 35-yarder, walk-off. No thanks, says the Kansas City line. Richard, how good is this Kansas City team? I'm like, finally, the Honolulu Blue can take over that #1 spot in your power ranks. Not so fast.
Mitchell, they got Lee Corso in the stands somewhere, and he's yelling, screaming, shouting. Not so fast, my friend. This defensive Kansas City Chiefs team is very difficult to beat because Mahomes isn't the thing you need to worry about, Mitchell. And that's why even when he's not on the field, you need to be concerned because that defense is elite. And that Spags defense continues to make plays. And this D-line made a play when they had to. When time expired and it looks like all hope was lost, there's a rabbit foot. There's a lucky rabbit's foot in somebody's sock. I don't know if it's Andy Reid's, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. It might be in Taylor Swift's shoe because she was there, Mitchell. And I just think when you got it going, Mitchell, and you continue to believe, we've had multiple Kansas City Chiefs on this podcast. We had Justin Reid and we had McDuffie, and they continue to talk about the culture and guys continuing to believe regardless of the circumstance, even to the point of where it seems to be insane to believe it's going to turn around. And I tweeted it when they were down 14-3. I was like, what's going on in Kansas City? But something tells me they're gonna come back. And of course they did, Mitchell. Of course, in a situation where it looks like there's no freaking way they win this game. I feel like every week we're saying there's no way they win this one. There's no way. How many seconds are left? There's no way he can do it this time. How much time is left? And this time you're like, he's not even on the field. He has no chance. They done ran the time off. Patrick Mahomes can't do it this time. Look, you got to see. Finally. Yeah. No. His defense comes through and shines. They're just a team that finds a way to win. It's the epitome of finding a way to win. Their defense played good, and you got to give Bo Nix a lot of credit. Bo Nix played a great game in a very tough environment against a very tough defense. He needed just a few more plays, and that seems to be the case every single week against the Kansas City Chiefs. You need a few more plays, and this time they only needed one more. Mitchell, hold that block one more second, but you didn't.
Well, you want to hear a crazy stat. The Chiefs have won 9 straight games when they trail by 7+ points. They're on a 15-game win streak. It's the longest in the NFL since the Packers in 2011, and they're off to a franchise best 9-0 start. They're the 5th Super Bowl champ to start 9-0 the following season. You touched on it a bit with the Broncos, though. They seem to have found themselves a keeper at the quarterback position with Bo Nix, and you see the maturity in his game. He's getting his vets involved. Cortland Sutton has turned around this last month, another touchdown in this game. Do you have any hope with Denver? I mean, now at 500, at 5-5, do you think they can, turn things around and sneak into the playoffs?
I don't know, Mitchell. I just don't know what's going to happen at the end of the season. They're a team that you really feel good about their defense, and especially when Patrick Surtain's in there. They get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. I didn't like them losing Baron Browning and trading him away, but I thought he was a really cool part of their pass rush, and their pass rush is really on the verge of being elite. But they needed this win. They needed this win for me to feel really good about their chances at the playoffs, to feel good about what Bo Nix and his growth. And Mitchell. I was buying in. Bo Nix was making plays early on. The offense kind of stalled in the second half. Kansas City got the points, and then he drives them down the field. And I think, man, okay, this is going to be a team. This is going to be a really statement win for them, something we can talk about. The only loss for the Kansas City Chiefs, a division game, et cetera, but it didn't happen. So, maybe this is the season of what ifs, of man, it's a game of inches. And if they would have had this, and if they would have had this, and if they would have had this, they would have been in the playoffs. But this is going to be one of those games that haunts them later. It's time for a look at this weekend's tastiest matchup. In a segment, we're naming Sunday Night Football, brought to you by Uber Eats.
A team that has, and frankly, in my opinion, proven themselves week after week is this Pittsburgh Steelers team. They go on the road against a red-hot Washington Commanders team and steal a win 28-27. Russell Wilson, Richard, I mean, he threw his first interception in the last 11 months. The keys to this car were given to him, and he's gone 3-0 in his starts. And frankly, Pittsburgh's offenses look a lot more fluid. He's getting guys involved. George Pickens looks like a true number one wideout now, and 5 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown. And they go and get this big win against Washington. Where's your head at with this Pittsburgh Steelers team? Because everyone, I guess, assumed that, the Baltimore Ravens would inevitably take over this division. The Steelers are saying they're turning a little Lee Corso too. Not so fast, my friend. The Steelers are a force to be reckoned with. What are your thoughts on the Steelers team?
They're very impressive, and this was their most impressive win of the season, in my opinion, because you talk about a guy who I think was the front runner before this game for Coach of the Year, and Dan Quinn had this team rolling, scoring a lot of points, playing inspired football, winning close games like this. And this Pittsburgh Steelers team, again, Mike Tomlin is probably a leading candidate for Coach of the Year from what you expected this team to be to what they are right now, 7-2, leading that very tough division. I think he deserves a ton of credit, and Russell Wilson deserves a ton of credit for the 3 games that he's been able to win. He's played really good football. Like you said, this team is built like the Seattle Seahawks were back in the day. Really great defense. Pass rush is getting home. And he just needs to do enough. He doesn't need to play crazy out of his mind football. He was 14-28 today, but don't make a ton of mistakes, don't turn the ball over. He did have the one interception, but they were able to stymie that, and then make plays when they had to. And he made a huge play when they had to have it. Pressure in his face, off his back foot. The game-winning touchdown to Mike Williams with 2 minutes to go in the ball game was a dime of a pass on 3rd and 9 when his team had to have it. I don't think Mike Williams has unpacked his bag yet, and he was able to catch his first touchdown of the season. Obviously, the issues in New York were well documented. The microscope was on that team, so a fresh start for him, and to come into this team and be able to make an immediate impact in a very meaningful ball game was huge for him and huge for his rapport with Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson continues to feed George Pickens in a way that I'm sure George Pickens and his family appreciate. He's looking like the player they thought when they drafted him, making huge plays, acrobatic catches. His catch in the end zone is one of the best that you will see in the National Football League. He just has incredible body control, really great quickness for somebody his size. And then he got a little bit of psychopath in it, Mitchell. I've seen there were some plays in that game where he completely lost his mind, and I respect it. You very rarely see players with that kind of mindset on the offensive side of the ball. He seems like a defensive player to me, but he didn't let it get him out of his element and continue to make plays and push forward. You got guys on that defense that are defying father time, like Cam Hayward, who had 2 sacks in this game, one of the unsung heroes of this game, and the one of the leaders and veterans on this team that Mike Tomlin called out and put a lot of pressure on last season and said, hey, you might be done. He came out and he has responded beautifully this season, having one of his best seasons in the National Football League in year 13, or is this 14 for Cam? This is that 13 for Cam. 14. It's got to be 14. Would have been 14 for me. Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible, Mitchell. And you just gotta give a lot of credit for the way he's coached this team, the way he's pushed them forward, regardless of the controversy. The decision to start Russell Wilson after Justin Fields started 4-2, those kind of decisions are ones that a lot of coaches wouldn't make because of what the results could be and how the impact could change this team. And it was beautifully handled. This team has continued on an upward trajectory. I'm looking very much forward to their game when they play the Baltimore Ravens next week.
The 2 huge games. I mean, you look at Steelers are hosting the Ravens, and this Commanders teams gets a huge test being on the road in Philadelphia, a game Thursday Night Football, huge game for you, Richard, that you will be at. Ever since Russ took over these last 3 games, this offense has averaged 30 points a game. It's just remarkable. On the other side of the fence, we had the Washington Commanders. And like you said, this was a tough matchup. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense is one of the best in the league. And Jayden Daniels kind of had a ho-hum day. 17 of 34, 50% completion percentage, 202 yards. You think this was his welcome to the NFL moment?
I don't know if it was your welcome to the NFL moment. I think you got to throw a few interceptions, a few pick sixes, just have an overall, one of those terrible, terrible overall very bad days, Mitchell. And I don't think this was a very bad day for a rookie quarterback. I thought he's facing a very tough defense in the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought he made the plays that were there. Gave his team a chance. They just didn't make enough plays at the end, obviously, to get the win. I thought Austin Eckler made a ton of huge plays for him. Dante Fowler continues to show up. He's played 6 games and has 6 sacks, so you got to give him some credit. That defense played better than they had. But I'm excited to see this team against the Philadelphia Eagles coming off a huge win against the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry's world, which just seems to be where you come in and get a win these days. I mean, they used to, I think they won 17 straight, and now they can't get a win to save their lives. Mitchell, it's things change. The world comes at you fast. That was this week's Sunday Night Food Ball, brought to you by Uber Eats, the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats has the best game day deals all season long. Order now for game day.
I mean, I would have to pull up the stats here, but it's safe to say Dallas has got blown out at home the last several games. And this one, the defense finally get Micah Parsons back. The defense is trying to hold this team in the game, in the first half, and it's not enough. It's 60 minutes of football, and you could just tell this defense was worn out. Cooper Rush could not do anything. 45 yards passing, and that I didn't make a mistake there, Richard. 23 attempts, 45 yards pass. I mean, that is less than 2
Right.
yards an attempt. And he lost 2 fumbles, one of which low snap, but it still hit him right in the hands. Turns the ball over to the Eagles in the red zone. And then we get to see Trey Lance. Your buddy from San Francisco gets another opportunity. Before we turn to the Eagles, where does Dallas go from here? The season appears to be over. They're 3-6. Where the heck do they go from here?
Mitchell, they go back to the drawing board, Mitchell, and you know what they do? They erase everything on it and tell everybody, "Hey, thank you for your service." Like they thank you for your service. We really appreciate everything you did for Dallas, but we'll head this way. There's some coaches that could probably stay on that staff. I think Al Harris has done an amazing job with that secondary and just over the years had an incredible impact. They've led the league in turnovers, multiple guys. You know, we talked about Deron Bland and then Trey Diggs and what they've done with the interceptions, but the scheme just changed so dramatically under Zimmer that you're not seeing the same impact because it's hard to make plays in that defense. It's one of those bend but don't break, like keep the shell over it, et cetera, but very predictable. But they got to start over. They got to find a new coach. And fans got to start having realistic expectations. They've had the greatest line in the NFL for so long. It's obviously been the Philadelphia Eagles for so long. I mean, for the last couple of years, but for decades, they've had such a fantastic and formidable offensive line. You take it for granted. So now that you don't have an offensive line, they're like, what's going on with Dak? What's going on with this? No, what's going on with the run game? We don't have the backs. I'm going to let you know something. Emmitt Smith couldn't run behind this offensive line that they have right now and have success because nobody's blocking. And they're going to have to address that in the draft. It's looking like they're going to have a very high draft pick. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be sitting there saying, Travis Hunter, Travis Hunter, Travis Hunter. You do not have the luxury of drafting a Travis Hunter right now. You better draft in the trenches or every season is going to end like this one is. People hitting your quarterback repeatedly, then you go to the backup quarterback, and every Dallas fan, and don't look away now. Do not look away now, Dallas fan, because some of you guys were sitting there saying, Dak, sit him down, bench him. I want to see Cooper Rush. And do not tell me nobody was saying it because they were saying it. And we can go back and they might be deleting those tweets as we speak. After 13 or 25 attempts for 45 yards, they're deleting a lot of tweets. They're sitting there, Mitchell, they're deleting. And I don't blame them because he is not the answer. Nobody is the answer when this offensive line is not able to protect. He lost a couple fumbles. We talked about the low snap. He did not play well. Trey Lance came in, not enough to really judge him off of, just six attempts. He had 4 completions, but he threw the interception, then another turnover when Ferguson just drops the ball. But I don't know, Mitchell. I don't think you can. You're pretty much at a point where you're going to have to wrap this season up and consider it a lost cause and start preparing for the draft next year. Play some young guys, let some guys get some experience, and see what you have left in the cupboard. Because right now you got a lot of guys. You got the Washington Commanders; they're a better team than you. You got the Philadelphia Eagles. They just blew you out at home. They're a better team than you. And I know it's a hard pill to swallow for Dallas fans, but this may be the rebuilding season that they need. New head coach, new regime. I'm sure they're going to be clamoring for your guy, Ben Johnson. I'm sure there's going to be some Bill Belichick talk because why wouldn't you? It's Dallas. I'm sure I'm going to say something about Prime. Why wouldn't I? But it's not if they continue with Mike McCarthy after this season, I would be incredibly surprised just because of how bad this season has gone. It looks like Dak Prescott's going to be on IR the rest of the season. Mitchell, they're looking down a dark tunnel, Mitchell, without a lot of hope.
Yeah. And just imagine being a first-time season ticket holder of the Dallas Cowboys. You're so excited for this new season, this team that was highly competitive last year. They're 0-4 at home, Rich. They've lost. I just looked it up. They lost their 4 games by combined 94 points. That's 23.5 points per game on average. They are losing. So, yeah, it might be time to hit that factory reset button in Dallas. But with the Eagles now, they take over the lone number 1 spot of the NFC East, and they look very, very good doing it. Jalen Hurts had himself a great game. Your boy A.J. Brown always open. A.J. Brown 5 catches for a 109. What's your thoughts on Philly? Because to me, as a Detroit Lions fan, thinking ahead and down the road, like obviously I already said I'm nervous about the Niners, but Philly's another one of those teams you do not want to face them in the crunch, especially in Philadelphia. What do you think of Philadelphia?
Yeah, I think they're going to be a tough out for anybody. They're just too talented offensively. They struggled a lot early in this game. It seemed like the Micah Parsons effect was incredible. He forced a forced fumble from Jalen Hurts in the pocket in their own territory. I thought Dallas, that would be their chance to steal the momentum, score a touchdown there. They were unable to. They fumble a ball in the red zone or at the goal line. Ezekiel Elliott gives it up. So you just there were so many opportunities where you thought this could be a lot better of a game than it was. Their offense looked a little sloppy, but then Jalen Hurts threw it to all day, always open A.J. Brown, and their connection has never been better. You just that's where if you're an opposing team, you're concerned because you look at that offense and you see the All-Pro season that Saquon Barkley's having. You already know what Devontae Smith can do. Dallas Goedert a lot of times gets involved right when he needs to for Jalen Hurts. He's a safety valve for him. And so there's so many weapons. That offensive line is still very formidable. And then defensively, it seems like they're starting to find their rhythm a little bit more than they had earlier in the season, especially their defensive line. But I don't know. I don't have a lot of people beating the boys in Honolulu Blue in the playoffs with the way they're running the ball, the way Jared Goff is executing that offense, the way their defense is playing, and they just got better acquiring a pass rusher, which I thought they would do. So I'm thinking that team is just going to continue to improve and continue to, especially defensively, show people what they can do.
I tell you what, Rich, they keep playing like this. The Cowboys team is going to be having a hangover after performances like this. And fortunately for them, I got a product we can offer them. Our friends over at No Days Wasted, they got the DHM Detox, which specializes in taking care of that hangover, helping you out. If you've had a late night with friends or a few beers, No Days Wasted helps you wake up feeling fresh, no matter how many drinks you had. So if you're, tying one on at the game and just take a couple of these, the DHM Detox is scientifically designed to tackle alcohol-related toxins, addressing the real cause of next-day grogginess. Only 20% is dehydration. The rest, toxins. Simply take 2 capsules after your first few drinks and double up if it's going to be a big night. Plus, your first box is 100% risk-free. Love it or get a refund. Richard, the Dallas Cowboys fan base definitely could use some DHM detox after watching that performance today against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, does DHM stand for Dallas Home Medication? Because that's what they're going to need to take every time they have a home game, it seems like, Mitchell. Dallas Cowboys fans, get you a box.
So feel your best after a night of drinking. It's completely risk-free purchase. Feel great or your money back on your first order. Head over to nodayswasted.com/Richard and use code Richard to get 20% off your first order. That's nodayswasted.com/Richard for 20% off. And also you get some free shipping too. So link is in the description. Check them out, guys. Let's go to Arizona. This game had a lot of implications in the NFC West, and I know also in the AFC East. I mean, this Jets team, fresh off a win last week, finally turned things around. Their hopes are high entering the season. A lot of folks thought, hey, they might go on the road and take care of Arizona. No, Arizona and Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is a force. Pre-injury, this is kind of the Kyler Murray we were seeing, but he seemed to mature a bit, and they were talking about it on the game broadcast about how just chill he is, and going 22 of 24, 266, a touchdown. We saw him, rush another 2 in. This Arizona Cardinals team is coming to life, and we saw Marvin Harrison Jr. get involved heavily. I know as a fan of the AFC or NFC West, you probably didn't want to see Arizona win, but they're looking like a very formidable opponent going into a bye week now. What are your thoughts on Arizona, Rich?
They're looking really good. I mean, this is one of the best games that I've seen from Kyler Murray. He looked really good in the pocket, looked focused, confident, accurate, under control. He took an incredible hit from Quincy Williams, got up, shook it off through a touchdown pass a few plays later to Marvin Harrison Jr. They just look so different. Even in a game where James Conner started to struggle a little bit, they found another running back, Trey Benson, who has a very good game for them. They still run for 147 as a team. Defensively, they looked really, really good. Again, a lot of guys, just blue collar, hardworking guy. Buda Baker, who's been second in the NFL in tackles, has a sack all over the field as he has been the entire season. Just a collective effort from a lot of guys, and you got to give Jonathan Gannon a ton of credit for what he's been able to build. They continue to become a more consistent team, and so after some concerning games from early on in the Cardinals season, you look at the blowout loss to the Commanders at home where they lost 42-14, and you look at the loss to Green Bay, you think, man, this team is going to be very good. They'll go up and down, but right now they've been playing consistent, good football. Kyler Murray has been more consistent each and every week. Their defense is more consistent to hold this Jets team, who again we thought was finding their rhythm, to 6 points overall. Held Aaron Rodgers to under 200 yards passing. Devontae Adams only 6 catches for 31 yards. You got to give them a ton of credit. They look really good. They're at the top of the NFC West, and it's going to be a crazy dogfight down the stretch. Some really fun games, very relevant games versus the Arizona Cardinals and the rest of the NFC West. I can't wait for that. They're going into a bye week feeling really good. The Jets go to the Colts, or host the Colts next week, who didn't look very good today. Joe Flacco threw a number of interceptions and a pick six, but that game is looking less and less relevant as both teams continue to struggle.
Yeah, we've talked about it. It's been well chronicled on this Richard Sherman podcast. The disdain towards Woody Johnson's handling of this team midseason, firing your guy, Robert Saleh. What do you think's going through Robert Saleh's head right now, Rich, seeing the Jets just struggle mightily without him?
He's not feeling good about it because he wanted this team to have success. He wanted to prove that at least the things that he put into place worked. He still cares about the guys that are playing for the New York Jets. So nothing positive is going through his mind. You know, it's unfortunate. He's sad that he didn't get to go down with the ship with his guys and coach them all the way throughout the season as he would have wanted to. But this is what happens when you fire your coach mid-season or 5 games into the season. You inject unnecessary chaos, unnecessary division, unnecessary drama into the franchise, a franchise that's already highly scrutinized. And so I feel bad for the players. You know, I had a lot of high hopes for the Jets. It's looking like another disappointing season for them and their fans. It just not the way I want to see it.
Well, Richard, it's time for the Ovation of the Day segment sponsored by our friends and partners over at Ovation for Men. Richard, if you guys haven't tried it yet, I mean, I got it right here. The Ovation Cologne, great fragrance. In fact, I'm going to spritz some on while we're here.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. It's a beautiful thing. But this week's Ovation of the Day, brought to you by Ovation for Men, goes to Kyler Murray. We already talked about him. This guy looks like he can keep the Arizona Cardinals team competitive. Richard, if he keeps it up like this, am I too far-fetched to say the Arizona Cardinals could win this division?
You're not very far-fetched, Mitchell. They've beat the teams in this division that you didn't think they would beat. They blew the Rams out earlier in the season. They beat the San Francisco 49ers in a game I didn't think the San Francisco 49ers would lose. So it's really not far-fetched at all. They're already leading this division. They're only getting better.
Well, when you go 22 of 24 for 266 and 2 rushing touchdowns, you deserve the Ovation of the Day. Ovation for Men celebrates the style, creativity, and excellence of deserving men. It's not just a fragrance, it's a statement. Available exclusively on Amazon. Click the link below in the description to redeem a first-time buyer coupon for 15% discount. Check them out, guys. Richard, let's go to Chicago. This was a team in desperate need of a win. They are falling below 500 now at 4-5. I think the story of the day here is Caleb Williams. Everyone thought more than likely Chicago is going to get back on track playing the New England Patriots. Well, I got news for you. New England Patriots are a different team now that Drake May is under center, and they showed it today. They're playing with new life, and they got after Caleb Williams, sacking him 9 times. And I want to rewind it. I want to rewind it about 6 weeks ago when you were at the Chicago Bears throats for drafting Rome Odunze, and not because Rome Odunze is not a very good player. I'm sure he's going to be a great player in this league. I loved him out of Washington,
So do
but
I.
you're talking about specifically team needs. When you draft a quarterback, number 1 overall, in Caleb Williams, you want to surround him with beasts up front. And that's what Chicago just does not have. And when you take a shellacking at home against the New England Patriots, 19-3, that's got to be a tough pill to swallow for the Chicago Bears fan base. Richard, what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, you got to give the New England Patriots a lot of credit. They got after it, 9 sacks in the ball game. They got after him, put pressure on him in a lot of different ways, held him to 3 points overall, and they have struggled on defense. So give credit where credit's due. But Caleb Williams, Mitchell, has to be feeling like Keith Sweat. I don't know if you know a lot about Keith Sweat, Mitchell, but he has a hit song called Nobody, Mitchell. And I'm going to give you a few bars that I thought would be relevant to Caleb Williams right now, Mitchell, because he's asking, who is blocking for me? Nobody. Who is I gotta start over. I gotta start over. I gotta get this off.
You want me to be like a backup dancer in this rendition here, Rich?
No, I'm gonna try to go quick. Mitchell, this Bears offensive line has Caleb Williams feeling like Keith Sweat because he's asking, who is blocking for me, Mitchell? It's nobody. Who is protecting me, my baby? Sing it with me, Mitchell. Nobody, baby. And the fans keep screaming out, hold it too long. He just holds it too long. Holds it too long. Nobody, baby.
Okay. They're going to have nobody in the fans or nobody in the stands here later in the season if they keep playing like this, Rich. I love that rendition, man. I'm going to have to fire that up on Spotify after we get off here, but
yeah, we got to get that on Spotify. We got to get it on Apple Music. Everybody, please, thank you. You know, this is my only single.
The song's going to be trending after this. Richard, Caleb Williams struggled mightily. I mean, how does he go up from here? Because the way you just put it, it's going down fast. Is there any hope on the horizon for Caleb Williams and the Bears team?
Mitchell, where can he go but up? When you are at the flat bottom, they were 1 for 14 on third down. You got sacked 9 times, Mitchell. He's on his back the whole day, so he's on his back, Mitchell. All you can do is get up. He was doing a lot of it, so he's going to have to do it one more time, a 10th time. He's going to have to get up off the mat, and this whole team is going to have to get up off the mat. This defense is what another part of what I'm concerned with, because they've been the strength of this team. And when you got a young quarterback like that, your defense is what you got to lean on. You got to be able to put pressure on the opposite quarterback. Drake May's a rookie. The offensive line for the Patriots hasn't played well. I thought this Bears defense would absolutely feast on this team. They don't really have a true number 1 receiver that is respected like that in this National Football League. So I thought they would get after Caleb Williams. I did not see him struggling the way he did in this game, but who can't struggle when you're hit and sacked that many times? Again, you can have all the weapons in the world, Chicago Bears fans. If you cannot keep the quarterback upright, then you never get to see him. And so you sit there, and it just reminds me of the Bugatti that's parked under the weather stall in that picture, that meme, Mitchell, where it's like, man, but the tires are flat. There's nothing you doing with that car because it's just $1 million car with a goddamn dollar store offensive line. And so that's what you're going to get, Mitchell. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get a 9-sack performance where you never get to see the guy actually shine and be talented. And he's had games this season where you saw flashes of what he got drafted to do and what made him special. But I just felt like for the future of this franchise, an offensive lineman would have gone a lot further. And people are like, well, we invested in our offensive line a couple of times, and some of these guys are draft picks. You never stop. That's one thing you'll find out is you do not stop. There's never too many good offensive linemen to have on your team. And that's what they're finding out, unfortunately.
and I can speak from being a fan of the Detroit Lions. And the whole reason this Detroit Lion team turned around is because they invested in the trenches. You go out and you draft Penei Sewell over the luxury items. All the fans here in Detroit, a lot of them wanted Justin Fields in that draft. And they go and draft Penei Sewell, who is, I mean, they might as well give him a gold jacket right now. He looks like Trent Williams, you know, a 24-year-old version of Trent Williams. And then you got Taylor Decker, you got Frank Ragnow, you got the guards. If an injury happens, they got replacements for him. The Bears don't have that luxury. We're 9 games into this tenure for Caleb Williams. Do you still believe in him being the number 1 pick? Do you still have that belief that he can be a franchise quarterback?
I don't know. And so it's not to be decided over the first 10 games of your career. You know, I'm not that knee jerk, especially with a guy like this. We've given other guys plenty of time to figure out if they're a franchise quarterback or not. And again, I need him to be upright with a competent offensive scheme consistently for me to see that and judge that. He has the weapons, he has a lot of the rest, but somebody has to coach him to get the ball out quicker. And at times you thought, the switch flipped. He's getting the ball out quicker. They're doing screen passes. There's motion in offense. There's creativity. You're like, bang, there it is, and then it disappears. You're like, wait, what? What is this? What? This doesn't look like the team we were watching before. And so I'm not ready to judge him really at all. But I know that right now it's Jayden Daniels. If you ask who's the best player in this class, it's Jayden Daniels, and it's not even close. Offensive player of the year, offensive rookie of the year. I mean, it's going to Jayden Daniels. It doesn't mean Caleb Williams is a bust and isn't going to be a great player in this league. It means it's his first year and he's not starting off as fast as the other guy. But a lot of things can change. He could go out and show out, but getting sacked 9 times, some of the plays are on him, but some of it is on that offensive line. They blitz rookie quarterbacks, Mitchell, and they're going to continue to blitz him if he shows he's going to struggle against it. And for all the gamers out there, get ready because Call of Duty is back. Forced to go rogue, hunted from within. This is Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Developed by Treyarch and Raven, Black Ops 6 is a mind-bending narrative. And unbound by the rules of engagement, this is signature Black Ops. Dynamic moment-to-moment gameplay, including a variety of play spaces with blockbuster set pieces and action-packed moments. High-stakes heists and cloak and dagger spy activity. Best-in-class multiplayer experience. You will test your skills across 16 new maps at launch, including 12 core 6v6 maps and 4 strike maps that can be played 2v2 or 6v6, marking the epic return of round-based zombies, the fan-favorite mode where players will take down hordes of undead in 2 brand new maps at launch. You can look forward to even more exciting maps and groundbreaking experiences dropping on both multiplayer and zombies. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is a spy action thriller set in the 90s by the end of the Cold War and the rise of the United States as a single superpower. Head over to callofduty.com/Black Ops 6 and get in the game. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 available now, rated M for mature.
The other rookie quarterback in this game was Drake May. And we saw him last week, you know, with a huge game to throw, or a huge play to throw that game into overtime against Tennessee. And I know they're playing Tennessee, but it's plays like that show you, okay, this guy is really talented. And like you said, Patriots do not have the weapons on the outside that the Bears have. I mean, certainly if Drake May had the Bears receiving core in New England, I mean, you'd be thinking, holy cow, this guy's got a lot to work with. What are your impressions of Drake May? Because this is a huge road win for a young quarterback.
Yeah, I again, it's just like Bo Nix. You know, he's getting some reps. He's getting some great experience. He had a careless turnover. He talked about it after the game. He wishes he could have that one back. But overall, he played not to lose the game and gave his team a chance to win. You know, he made plays when they needs to have them. Didn't make a ton of mistakes. Didn't give the defense the ball too many times. And this has been a really good Chicago Bears defense. So you can see the growth there. You could see why they started Jacoby Brissett early on. You could see the difficulties this offensive line is having, but this is growth from him. That's 2 wins for him, and they only got 3.
There you go. Well, the Bears haven't scored a touchdown in 21 straight possessions. They finished 1-14 on third down today. They'll have an opportunity against the Packers next week, and the Pats host the Rams. So maybe we'll be talking a little bit more about the Pats if Drake May can keep this magic alive for the New England Patriots. But Richard, that concludes our week 10, I guess, Sunday recap here. Before we wrap, I want to talk real quick about the Thursday night game because you were there in Baltimore and it was a doozy. You were on the goal line on the field watching that 2-point conversion, and I know you talked about it with me after the game. You liked that call to go for it there as the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, share your thoughts about that, because I think there would be a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks saying, "Hey, just put it in OT," but you thought differently.
No, because there's a lot of people that's why you don't go places in life, Mitchell, because you're not taking the risk. You got to go to get to where you need to go. You got to take risks sometimes, and you got to go get it. You don't win games. You don't play not to lose games. You play to win them. And when you're an underdog on the road with Lamar Jackson playing the way he was playing, and you're down T. Higgins already, Jamar Chase is having a game of his life, catches the game-winning touchdown. I mean, the game tying or what appeared to be the game tying touchdown. You go for it. You got Joe Burrow at quarterback. You give yourself, you play to win the game. And I know people are like send it to OT. If Lamar Jackson touches that ball first in OT, y'all lost. And maybe Joe Burrow gets it, and maybe you guys have a chance. But no, you can win the game right now and walk away. You're on the road. You're underdogs. You win that game right there. And if they complete a pass, there's too many good plays on 2-minute plays. I wish people would study Bill Walsh and what they used to do in the red zone or inside the 5, because the game hasn't evolved enough. Everybody still plays man-to-man inside the 5-yard line. So the Jerry Rice motion where you snap the ball behind the line of scrimmage and the DB has to basically guess where he's going from here, it's still touchdowns in the National Football League. And the only team that seems to figure that out is the Kansas City Chiefs. They did it in the Super Bowl. I want to say they did it multiple times. They've done it a ton of times, and they find a way to win and win Super Bowls and win championships. But I don't know. I think that's always the right call. I think when you're underdogs or the momentum's been against you all game, like at that point, Baltimore had the momentum. They were marching. They were scoring touchdowns. They were feeling good. You're on the road in Baltimore. You go for 2.
I like it. I like it. Well, that concludes this week's podcast. Rich, I will let you sign us off.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on the Richard Sherman podcast. You could go anywhere in the world to get your NFL information, but you're here with us, and we appreciate you so much. We can't wait to see you next week and figure out who's going to win this game between the Detroit Lions and the Houston Texans. Mitchell, of course, thinks his Honolulu Blue Boys are going to get it done, but the Houston Texans get Nico Collins back at the best possible time, and I'm anxious to see how that goes. Appreciate you joining us. Hit that sub button if you know.